So look at Anthony Ryder from South Lyon, Michigan, recently selected as the Lions 2020 Fan of the Year. He has a passion about sports broadcasting.
With the 112th selection in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Detroit Lions select Amon-Ra St. Brown, wide receiver, USC. One pride, baby! Yeah!
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Detroit Lions video. It is Thursday, meaning we have just a couple of days before the Seattle Seahawks come to Ford Field and play the Detroit Lions for the chance at Detroit to become 2-0 on the 2023 season. As it is Thursday, we did get our first look at the injury report on Wednesday, our first look at who's practicing, who's not practicing, who's ready for the game, and who is going to be questionable come Sunday's matchup. So today I wanted to take a look at the injury report, take a look at who didn't practice, who was limited in practice, who was full practice, and which player got placed on injured reserves a couple days ago after their game. So with that being said, just a quick short update video today. So let's get into it. Starting off with the players that did not practice. Now, Charles Cross is a player that left Sunday's game early for the Seattle Seahawks. I believe he has a lower leg injury and was unable to return. The backups went in, and the backups were not very good. I believe it had 12 pass protecting snaps and allowed 4 pressures. At least the left tackle did. Charles Cross is a big part of what the Seattle Seahawks like to do. He's a big foundational piece of their team. I believe the former 6th overall pick by the Seattle Seahawks, a former top 10 pick at the very least. He's a big part of that offensive line, and him being down is not ideal for the Seahawks. It is not impossible for him to play on Sunday, but it is looking less and less likely as the week goes on, as reported on by a lot of Seattle reporters, as said multiple times by head coach Pete Carroll. It seems unlikely, and it's going to be a very big challenge for Charles Cross to get back on the field. The Seattle Seahawks have signed multiple tackles to replace Charles Cross, as well as Abraham Lucas, both of whom left Sunday's game early. And it does seem like they are preparing for the worst case scenario. Now, Boye Mafa also did not practice. Boye Mafa, a starting pass rusher for the Seattle Seahawks, a former second-round pick from the University of Minnesota. He isn't an elite pass rusher, but he is certainly a rotational guy that is able to get pressure on the quarterback and had a few sacks a season ago. I don't think would be the biggest loss, certainly not as impactful as Charles Cross, but is still a player the Seattle Seahawks would certainly like to have on their defensive rotation. And then Mike Morris also did not practice for the Seattle Seahawks this week. The Lions have a couple DNPs as well. Taylor Decker, it came out after Thursday night. It was said that Taylor Decker left the locker room in a boot. He was walking by himself. However, he seemed to have a little bit of a limp, did have a walking boot on, and of course was not 100% fully healthy. He apparently played on a bad ankle in the second half of last week's game versus the Kansas City Chiefs, and eventually ended up playing the entire game. I thought played very, very well, but it did turn out that the Detroit Lions did not have him active for practice on Wednesday. That is something we are going to continue to monitor on this channel. It's something we're going to continue to monitor as Lions fans, because Taylor Decker is a huge part of this offensive line. He is really the longest tenured Lion at this point. He's been here for a long time. He's a fan favorite offensive lineman, and he is very, very important to the success of this Detroit Lions team. Emmanuel Moseley also did not practice on Wednesday. He is a player that is recovering from a torn ACL, and from what it said on the injury report, also had some hamstring tightness. He's a player that a lot of people expect to play. He was activated from the PUP list right on the roster cutdown day, taking up that roster spot. They clearly expect him to be healthy sooner rather than later. He did not play last week. He was officially out due to his knee injury. Seems like a hamstring's been bothering him a little bit. So again, we're going to have to see whether he's able to play or not. And then special team standout Khalil Dorsey also did not practice. However, this was due to an illness and not due to an injury. Khalil Dorsey, a big part of the special teams unit last Thursday versus the Kansas City Chiefs, made a couple really big tackles. Really, really good player on special teams, runs, hits very hard, gets on the football. And he's a player that I think the Lions really want to rely on special teams, a player they really want active. So hopefully he starts feeling a little bit better before Sunday's game. Now, there were two players that were limited at practice, both of whom were Seattle Seahawks. Jamal Williams did not play a week ago as he missed the first week of the season. However, he was back at practice yesterday. He was limited in his role, but he was there and he was practicing, as was a former first-round pick, Devin Bush, the linebacker. Obviously, Jamal Adams, the starting safety, the former All-Pro safety, would be a big addition to the Seattle Seahawks secondary. Devin Bush, I believe, is going to be more of a rotational linebacker for them behind Jordan Brooks and Bobby Wagner, but they both are limited in practice. I would expect them to play. However, they may want to be a little bit more careful with Jamal Adams, so he could be out. But again, I expect both of them to play as well. Moving on to full practice. Will Dissly for the Seattle Seahawks, Devon Witherspoon, the former 5th overall pick from this past draft, as well as Cameron Young, all were full practice. They all were limited last week, and some of them did not play. However, all of them are full practice this week and are fully expected to be ready to go. For the Detroit Lions, Frank Ragnow has been suffering with this toe injury for well over a year at this point, but he was at full practice yesterday. He's a player the Lions fully expect to have this weekend. They're going to be very careful with this toe. They're not going to have him do too much in the preseason, or not going to do much in the pregame process, right? He's not going to do too much at practice. However, he was full practice yesterday. I wouldn't be surprised if he was a little bit limited tomorrow just to take it easy before the game, but he is full practice and should be ready to go. The last piece of news I want to talk about today is the injury report. Abraham Lucas, the starting right tackle of the Seattle Seahawks, has officially been placed on IR with a toe injury. Immediately after the game on Sunday, Pete Carroll came out when talking about losing both tackles, and he said it's going to be very hard for them to play next Sunday, talking about both Abraham Lucas and Charles Cross. A few days later, Abraham Lucas was officially placed on injured reserve, meaning he's 100% not playing versus the Detroit Lions. Now, like I said, Charles Cross is still up in the air. He did not practice on Wednesday, and we have yet to see whether he has practiced on Thursday or not. But it does seem very unlikely that the Detroit Lions are going to have to face either of the starting tackles for the Seattle Seahawks coming into the season. They, I believe, just signed a former offensive tackle for the backup position, whose name is currently escaping me, but he's a longtime offensive tackle, a former Pro Bowler, and he is likely going to step in for Charles Cross, and they've signed 2 rookie right tackles to take over for Abraham Lucas, who have officially will not be playing for the next couple of weeks at the very least. Big injury concerns for the Seattle Seahawks early. For a team that had a lot of hype, for a team that had a lot of things going for it this offseason, the injury bug has really hit them early. JSN's had some injuries. Obviously, Devon Witherspoon's had some injuries. Their offensive line has taken a lot of hits. And I think it's going to leave an opportunity for the Detroit Lions to really take advantage with their pass rush. Last week, they did a very good job versus a very strong Kansas City offensive line. Seattle, not nearly as strong as Kansas City, even at full strength. And now they're not at full strength. They're down to backup tackles. Their interior wasn't very good. Granted, they were going against Aaron Donald, but it leaves a big opportunity for the Detroit Lions pass rush to get home, a huge opportunity for the Lions to be successful this week. Hopefully, they are able to take advantage. But with all that being said, that is all I have for you guys today. Just a quick injury update about who's looking to play, who's looking questionable, and who might be doubtful for Sunday's matchup. Let me know down in the comments below who you think is going to play, who you think is going to be out, and how you think the Detroit Lions can maybe take advantage of some of the injury concerns of the Seattle Seahawks. Be very curious what you guys have to say. But with all that being said, that's all I got for you guys today. Thank you all so very much for watching, and until next time, and as always, go Lions.